Hello, and welcome to this demonstration of UK AEOI reporting with AEOI Hub. The requirements for UK financial institutions for AEOI reporting are quite different from that in other jurisdictions. The reason for this is the UK has its own schema for AEOI reporting rather than using the standard FATCA and Common Reporting Standard schemas. One of the key differences is that a single combined report is required, whereas in many countries an FI would file a FATCA report and a separate CRS report. In the UK it's all combined into one. Secondly, financial institutions and those reporting on behalf of FIs are required to register with the UK HMRC AEOI reporting service, and this then issues an AEOI user ID, and for each FI an FI register ID. The reason that's important is because these identifiers are used within the actual submission. There's also some differences in the actual accounts data field. Generally they're quite similar to the standard FATCA and CRS field, but there are some notable differences, particularly in the case of addresses. And finally, because of the way that the UK schema works, the process for amendments is quite different from the standard FATCA and CRS schemas. Let's now take a look at how we deal with all of this in the AEOI Hub template. First thing to note is that for the submitter, if I look at the details here, you don't have to provide a GIN. You can enter it here for memo purposes, but the identifier that's used in the report is the AEOI user ID, a 10-digit ID that's issued by HMRC. Secondly, for each reporting financial institution, again, we don't use the GIN, but the FI register ID that's issued by HMRC. Also note that there are 4 elections that are required to be populated with either yes, no or NA, as you can see on here. Taking a look at the accounts data, most of the fields are quite similar for the standard FATCA and CRS. One key thing to note is that the UK has an option for an account identifier. Where the financial institution doesn't have a recognised account number, it instead can report an account identifier. The way that we cover this in the template is if you select account identifier here, whatever you then input for account number identifier here will be reported as account identifier rather than account number. The second point to note, if I take a look at the account details for a particular account, most of the fields are quite similar to standard FATCA and CRS. For the address details, you'll note that there are fewer fields than you may see in the standard FATCA and CRS. There's also no concept of a free format address, so for UK reporting the addresses need to fit into these fields here. And finally, for an entity type account, there's an optional IN type field, identification number type, where you can select from GIN, EIN, TIN, CRN or other, and that's an optional field. Okay, let's take a look at the reports. I'm going to click on generate the reports. That's identified that there's 99 reportable accounts to be included in the AEOI return. I'll proceed with that. Okay, that's now completed. Let's have a look at the reports. Let's take a look at the management report. Here we have AEOI reporting information for UK, summary of the accounts here, and then onto the details of all the accounts to be reported there. Take a look at the XML file. We can see at the top here is the AEOI UK schema, that's the specific UK schema, and we've got all of that referencing in there that's required. The final area I just wanted to have a look at is the process for amendments, because that is a bit different in the UK schema compared to some of the FATCA and CRS schemas. If I select amendment here, there are 3 types of amendment report that can be filed. A void submission essentially tells HMRC to completely ignore the submission that was previously sent. A submission replacement is used where there's a lot of changes, and what you're effectively doing with that is telling HMRC to ignore the previous submission and replace it with this new submission. And finally, submission variation is more subtle because that's where you can vary different elements of the report to say that what you previously submitted needs to be updated. And if I select submission variation, at the reporting financial institution level, you select the FI action type, either variation, which is saying that various details of various accounts need to be updated, replacement, which is replacing the whole FI information, void, which is telling HMRC to completely ignore what was previously sent for that FI, or new, which means that the data is new, data that hasn't been sent before. If I select variation and then take a look at the accounts data, if I then select one of the accounts and say that it's to be included in this submission variation, there's then an account action type where I can say that this data is new, that it hasn't been sent before, it's variation, which means it's to be updated, or it's void, which means you're telling HMRC this account data that we previously sent should be ignored, deleted. And then if you choose variation, you can then update the details. So for example here, let's say one of the details on this were incorrect, need to be updated. If I then go to generate the reports, it's identified that there's only one reportable account because it's only the one that we are flagged for inclusion. Let's proceed with creating that report. Okay, that's done. Let's take a look. We have a look at this AOI variation. Take a look at the management report. We can see on here submission variation, there's only one account that's going to be included. And there are the details of that amended account. If we take a look at the XML, that has the category of submission variation and then the details of this account that's being updated, variation. We hope that you found that video useful. Look out for further updates on our YouTube, LinkedIn and Twitter.